The last few weeks, we have just had such beautiful weather, which is so nice and refreshing after winter has seemed so long. This was the first time I was able to sit out in the morning on my front porch and read and reflect on St. Francis de Sales. I am currently reading The Introduction to a Devout Life. It is so powerful and convicting and beautiful all in one. I did make a community post and ask if anyone wanted to do a book study together. I'm not quite sure how that would look, but let me know if you are interested. It has been such a good and enlightening read. Again, also super convicting, which is good. I am also putting my plants out to harden. We have so many flowers and so many vegetables that need planted. But while my other flowers and vegetables are being hardened off, I'm going to plant some ones that are ready to go into the ground. Spring is so beautiful because it's such a reminder of renewal, of growth, new life. But it is also such a busy time, especially for us here on our little hobby farm. It is a time where you have to prep all of the plants, the seeds, the garden. For us, the past week, my husband got 2 nukes of honeybees. So my husband is going to be doing bees this year. That's exciting. We are getting chickens, egg-laying chickens, and meat chickens. They're coming this week, and so we have to prep for that. We are currently taking out our pool. You've probably seen it in our backyard. It has been empty for, I think, a year at least, and it is finally gone, but it has been a slower process than we hoped for with filling it in with dirt and creating a rock patio. And overall, our projects have been going fairly well, but you always find things that slow it down. We found so much sand underneath the pool, so my husband had to stop. He actually added some boards that used to be in our garden around the bottom part of our kids' playhouse and made a nice little sandbox for them. So just spending time doing things like that, having to stop, fix something, add something, remove something, typical project stuff. And so, although this is such a beautiful time, the windows are open, the kids are playing outside from being cooped up, it is also very busy. But one thing in this busy season that I don't want to slip away is living intentionally and liturgically. We follow the church calendar. For our homeschool and our family, we celebrate all major feast days. We try to celebrate as many saint feast days as we can. I just put up the Regina Caeli in our home, which is one of the 4 Marian antiphons. I have another one by our Angelos that we pray and sing at noon. And one thing we are celebrating this year that we haven't before is Rogation Days. So on April 25th, we celebrated the major Rogation Day. There are also 3 minor Rogation Days celebrated in May. So if you want to get in on this beautiful practice and tradition, you still can. I'm using the Benedictus as my guide for Rogation Days, and I'm having my kids decorate a banner. So each of my kids was able to hold something as we went around. I have a whole blog post dedicated to explaining Rogation Days and different ways that you can celebrate it. But living liturgically and doing things like this is such a good reminder to us that faith does not stay inside the church walls. It walks with us in the garden rows, blesses the berry bushes, enters the chicken coop, and most importantly, follows us into our ordinary work of feeding our family through motherhood and homemaking. So rogation, for short, comes from the Latin word rogare, which means to ask. So rogation days are just days that are set aside by the church for prayer, fasting, penance, and procession, especially to ask God to bless the land, crops, labor, animals, and the needs of the world. So the minor rogation days are observed on the Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday before Ascension Thursday. These are called the lesser litanies. And so what we did is I had my kids have something special that they walked around with as we prayed the Litany of Saints. We did the prayers that came in the Benedictus subscription book, and we asked God to bless our home, our land, our garden, our fruit trees, our barns, our outbuildings, the kids' play set, our cottage, our house, just went all over. So my first son carried a large cross. My daughter carried holy water. My son carried a crucifix. My other daughter carried our banner. And then I read, and we all prayed and did the litany together. It was so beautiful. And I hope people drove by questioning what we were doing, and I hope that maybe they look into it. This is one of the traditions and a beautiful thing that the church has lost. These days are no longer universally in the church calendar since the 1969 reform, but they used to have the whole community out of church and go together to each other's lands in procession. They used to have adoration while walking with Jesus in the monstrance, and they all prayed the litany together. The priest prayed blessings over the fields and crops and sprinkled everything with holy water. What a beautiful community celebration that has been lost. But those are the kinds of things that I want to keep going, at least for my family anyway. To make it easier for myself, I have been trying to make multiple loaves of bread, multiple bread recipes. So I was preparing some whole wheat sourdough monkey bread, whole wheat artisan loaf, and pizza dough. I made those all at the same time, and then I allowed them to just ferment and rise, do their bulk rise during the day. The only one that I didn't stretch and fold was the sourdough monkey bread. I just continued to let that rise, and then in the evening, I rolled all of the dough into tiny little balls. They can be all different sizes. Rolled those balls into some coconut oil and then into a brown sugar cinnamon mixture. I just placed some parchment paper and a bag over and let it rise in the fridge overnight. I shaped my whole wheat artisan loaf into a Banneton basket and let that rise overnight. And then in the morning before baking the sourdough monkey bread, which I do have this recipe on my blog, I will leave it linked down below. I just heated up the glaze on the stove, poured it over the monkey bread and baked it, and then right out of the oven, flipped it over. Now I am going to keep my oven hot and bake my artisan loaf. This is 100% whole wheat. It is my favorite, and it tastes so good and came out so nice and soft. I will also leave that linked down below. For the pizza dough, I just shaped it into a ball, placed it back in the bowl, and let that ferment overnight. And I actually didn't pull that pizza dough out until the evening when I was ready to bake it.
Too much. Oh, keep on doing this.
It's all right.
I was kind of. I got back eye. I got back eye, and I need one more back eye.
I will also have my sourdough pizza dough recipe linked down below. I wanted some thin to medium thick crusts, and so I am just going to roll them out into 3 different pizzas. Now, I recommend taking your pizza dough out maybe 10 minutes before you want to roll it. Mine were a little bit hard from being in the fridge, but it all worked out. And then I just heated up some cast iron skillets with some oil. I did coconut oil. I let the skillets preheat with the oven so they were hot. I baked my dough by itself for about 10 minutes, and then I added on all the toppings and cooked it for another 5 to 8 minutes, I believe. I always just look at the cheese, look at the toppings, and with the crust pretty much being pre-baked, you don't really have to worry about that being soft or not done. Of course, my pizzas are a little misshapen, but they tasted great all the same. I have a cast iron pizza stone, but it doesn't fit in my oven. My oven's very deep, but not very wide. So the edges of the skillets made it a little bit harder to make the pizza a nice shape, but it tasted great. I do recommend poking the bottom of your dough with a fork a few times because, as you saw, I had a huge air bubble and then it was hard and it broke and it created a hole in my crust, and no one wants that. I had 3 cast iron skillets going. I had 2 preheating in the oven and 1 on the stove. And on the stove, I was cooking my sausage, onion, and peppers. That way, they didn't have to bake longer in the oven. Everything was done. It just needed to get hot and the cheese melt. I also made a Hawaiian style pizza for another one. I didn't have any cubed ham, so I used some lunch meat and then some pineapple that I cut up, but it turned out really delicious. I love that pizza is so tasty and customizable and is a super quick, easy meal. I hope that this springtime is such a blessing for you, that it is a reminder of the beauty and the promises of Christ, that new life does come again, that the plants and flowers that you see just give you hope and just help you to contemplate the wonders and glory of God and all that He has created. I am just working into the night with this rock patio. This has been such an ordeal, but luckily yesterday we finally finished it, which is why this video is so late. I have spent every nap time and extra minute that I have on this patio and in the garden. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Kelsey, and I make biblically encouraging videos for the vocation of homemaking. God bless.